Hey guys, so today I'm here with Dorito, and I thought since it was getting spring, getting nice and warm, it's Easter this Sunday, that we could do a burmation video. And what it is, because I was going to do a breeding video, but I actually already did that last year, about around this same time, because I didn't do a burmation video last year because Dorito didn't really go into it. He still didn't really go into this year, but I know about it more. And so I thought I could do that instead of a breeding video like I was going to do, since I've already done that. I will have that link down below. But happy Easter. I will not have a video on Friday because I'm going to my grandma's for Easter the whole week for spring break. And then also I only post 2 weeks every other week now. And so, but the next week, not spring break, so not this week, but the week after that, I will have a video up on Friday, just per usual. Because I know sometimes I do film that week if I do have time. But since it's Easter, I just want to wish everyone a happy Easter. Dorito says happy Easter. And let's get started. Also, I hope this lighting is good. It's very bright outside, and I was going to just use the light, but I can't open my window. And of course, my dog's barking. And I can't use that window because it has like out the window, there's like our address out there. But anyway, so let's just get started. And my dog would quiet down, and there's Dorito. So today's burmation. So I'm gonna do what is burmation. I'm gonna try to go as fast as I can. If it is lengthy, the week after spring break, Easter, I'm going to do what Dorito's experiences in burmation. I'll probably just do that as a separate video because I'm sure this video is going to be pretty lengthy anyways. So hold on, I'm going to adjust the light. I feel like it's way too bright. There we go. I feel like that's a little better, and then I'll just come up a little closer because I feel like, I don't know, it's really bright today outside, even though it's kind of cold. So anyways, burmation is basically, if anyone doesn't know, I explained this a little bit in my breeding video, but it's basically bearded dragons, reptiles in general, go into this burmation. And I said this in my breeding video, the best way, like when one of my family members asks, because they know like I have a bearded dragon, or like they'll bring it up in a subject or like some conversation, I'll be like, sorry, I'll be like, it's kind of like hibernation, because if you don't do your research, which you should, but for like a stranger, it's kind of hard to explain. So I just say hibernation. If you don't, I hope you'll know what hibernation is, but if you don't, it's basically mammal. It's the mammal type of going in. So in the winter, they'll go to sleep if it's too cold, because in the wild, they basically store themselves. The only difference between hibernation and burmation is hibernation, I would say about 99% of the time, a bear's body fully shuts down. So they sleep, but where reptiles, they can wake up actually, and their body doesn't shut down. So like, let's say there's a parasite in, which we'll get into later, is going to eat up their system since it's not fully shutting down. So it's the only difference. So I do have my Google Slides that I made when I got Dorito. I actually haven't used those in a while on this channel, but so I'm just going to go through that. So usually burmation is, they will not go into burmation until they are a year old. That's why I didn't want to do this video last year, because Dorito was around 8 months when I filmed that breeding video, and he did not go into burmation last year. And I'm going to do the week after spring break, because I won't have time in this video, I don't think, a video on my experience with Dorito, but I'm going to sum it up real quick just because I feel like I need a little summary, or this video is not going to make that sense. Dorito, so if you don't know, I live in Virginia. I live in a southern state. It's very hot, like not even winter. Like winter, it was very cold actually this winter. We got an ice storm and everything, and our power went out. So, but still, Dorito did not really go. He did not sleep, he did not like hibernate, which at the end of this video makes sense, but he basically just got a little lazier. Like he didn't move as much. So now that it's breeding season, he's running around my room trying to find a mate, which if you watch that breeding video that I'm going to link down below, it will make more sense. And this lighting, I feel so off because like this thing, but anyways, I lost my train of thought. So but in this winter, he'll just like kind of walk around my room, if you get what I'm saying, instead of running around it, trying to bobbing head and mating. So if that kind of gives you a picture of how Dorito is. So he was just kind of slower, but he didn't actually go to sleep, like some bearded dragons, and actually burmate and stay. He ate. I will say he didn't poop as much. I don't know if that's really a factor, and he didn't eat as much. But he still ate normal. He just, instead of eating 3 times a week, which is in the summer, I usually feed him 3 times a week. One Monday, one Wednesday, and one Friday. 3 days. There we go. He was on my necklace and he was pulling on it. And so he would only eat about 2 times a week instead of 3 times a week, but that was still plenty, and he ate all his greens and everything. So he did go through a little period, about like 3 months or 3 weeks, where he would not eat at all. It was like, I think, right before Christmas. But besides that, I think the mailman's coming, because yeah, it's 4:45. The mailman's probably outside my house, so that's why the dogs are barking. But anyways, so that's kind of his sum up. He didn't go, and like on YouTube you can search this up, burmation. I have a playlist down below that you can watch, and I'm sure there's burmation videos in there that can help you, and some of those go into full burmation, which you're going to get into. So next week, or not next week, the week after that, I will do a video that's way longer, probably about 10 minutes, and explain. But anyways, so burmation, there's signs you can go through. So some signs would be laziness. So if you're, like I said, that's mainly what Dorito did, was just being laziness, and my dad's probably home. Anyway, so laziness, tiredness, that's the same thing. That's mainly Dorito. Now he runs around everything. If they're looking sick, so one more thing before I get, you do not want to mistake this. So most people, I did not get off, you're going to get off, buddy. Don't particularly do this because Dorito didn't go into full burmation, but if he was going to and actually sleeping, I was going to feed him and everything, I would have took him to the vet and got him a fecal sample to make sure he doesn't have any parasites or worms or anything like that, because if you do, like I said, they can end up dying, because then that doesn't transfer anything. Like, it will just eat their system away while they're sleeping or burmating. So if they're looking sick, that can be a thing, because they're getting tired, they're not eating as much, so they might be a little skinnier, but you don't want them to obviously lose a whole amount of weight or it be parasites. So just taking the vet. If they're not moving, so same laziness, they're stuck in one place. Dorito was stuck in one place a lot. Like, he wouldn't like move around his cage as much. Like now he'll like pace around, wanting me to take him out, run around. But he was stuck in one place, but he was still active. So when you like hear stories about burmation, most people say they slept 100% of the time. They would not eat. They wouldn't eat the greens, doobie roaches, anything. He only stayed on his school side. He didn't want any heat. But he was in the heat. He loved being in the heat. He still walked around to get to his food bowl and everything. He still ate. He just didn't initially want to like be exercising, I guess. So not interacting. He didn't interact as much more. Instead of like running around my room and I like holding, he would just like lay on me and stuff like that. Not eating or drinking, so remember that. Digging, so this is for females. This breeding video I would highly recommend to watch before this video, because it's going to make more sense. Females dig if they're going to brumation and breeding, just because they're laying eggs and stuff like that. So in the winter, if it's around, so I wouldn't say especially our house, but outside it definitely got into the 20s and 30s and stuff like that. But it definitely, inside my house, it was like the lowest 70 probably. The lowest would be 7, maybe 65. So, and that's like his lights would make it 90. So he didn't go, he went like, I would say 45, 50% brumation. He didn't go full brumation and stuff like that. But if they can, some people can go in the summer, because in different places around the world, it's obviously might be colder in the summer than it is if like in winter, or it could just be something that, I don't know, just get it checked out if they do go in the summer, because that's obviously unusual, but it could happen. It all depends on your environment and how you're like, make sure it's proper, because if you have it too low, they might, like if you have your heat lamp too low, they might think it's winter. Like their brain might switch a little switch, and they think it's winter. The next thing is, let's So I have like 2 little slides. So the first one was signs. So now we're gonna go into tips. So I've already said this, get a fecal test. You wanna do this to make sure they don't have any parasites, and just go to the vet, make sure they have an overall good health before you put them into burmation. Don't force feed. So if they're not eating, bearded dragons can last up to a whole 2 months, and especially in burmation. For food, without food, so unless they're rapidly getting skinny and your doctor says you need to feed them, don't force feed them. It's not a doctor, sorry, I just said it, a vet. Check up on them. So if you don't want to force wake them up. So if Judah's eyes were completely closed and he was like dead, like not dead, but like fully asleep, then you don't want to I don't want to do this to him, but you don't want to shake him and hit him. And generally you shouldn't do that, but especially in burmation. But you just want to maybe just gently, maybe first stick your hand in front of them to know oh, someone's here. Don't right away pick them up, and then lightly stroke them, and then once they acknowledge you, pick them up. And if they're not full in burmation, so where Dorito in my case, I took him out, but I would just kind of hold him and kind of let him sleep on me rather than letting him run around, since he didn't feel in the mood to do that. The next tip, I'm going to try to go fast because I don't want this video to be too long for y'all, is you want to make sure they're still breathing. So this is actually very hard, especially in bearded dragons, to tell, but this is going to sound very brutal, and I don't like saying this, but your bearded dragon can die in burmation, just because they're obviously sleeping, and if they have parasites, especially something's wrong with them and they're not healthy, they can die because they're basically just like a human can die in their sleep. So that's just how life works. And so one way to tell, I'm going to try to show this best off as I can in my hand, is you want to look right, let me actually see if I can look. Yeah, so about right under their armpits, right, let me do it right here. So right about there. I'm going to be quiet for 2 seconds and you can maybe see him going. I'm going to try to be him breathing in. I can see it. It's very hard to tell, and probably even harder to tell on scene, but basically if their tummy it's going to be very subtle, and even in burmation it's going to be even harder to tell because they're completely still. You want to check their skin color. So as you can see, Dorito's skin is very, very bright, and if it's getting so Dorito's orange and yellow. So if it's getting a very light, very discolored, and not their usual color, that could be sick. Just like a human, if they get blue and stuff like that, that's bad for them. So you just want to make sure their color's staying good and stuff like that. You want to make sure their eyes are open. So they're obviously sleeping, but if you so it's not gonna work. But when Dorito's sleeping, if I go, hey, the whole eyes were open, you just want to make sure alert, because in general, that's how you tell bearded dragons are in good health. You want to have a hide. So in the wild, they have little caves where they go into burmation. They sleep for about 2 weeks. I don't know if I've said this, but burmation can last up 2 days, 2 weeks to 6 months. However, it depends on your cold. So my grandma lives in Maine, and if I had Dorito up there, it's about it can get in the low negatives up there. So he would probably burmate for maybe around 4 months, because and they have to be about a year to burmate, because then they fully developed down there and stuff like that. And so that's basically that. And to have a hide that just triggers them, let them know they're safe, because in the wild there can, if they, let's say this is a piece of land, and they just lay here on that piece of land, they go to sleep, they brumate. A little hawk can lie down, pick them up, eat them. So they're not going to want to fully sleep for a long time, because they don't know the difference. They might not have an understanding of the difference between captivity and the wild. So you just want to make it the best for them. And so putting them going, so then pretend this is a cave, them going in that cave. A hawk isn't really, there's not going to be, there can be predators, but there's not going to be as much predators just because they're safe and secure. So you just want to make sure, you do want to let them, one last poop, and then you don't want to feed them so they don't get impacted. I do have a video on impaction. I'll link that down below. Just because they'll get impaction, then the food will sit in their stomach, it'll rot out, then they can't like digest it, it'll be bad and stuff like that. So you don't want that at all. Before you want to give them water. So I would say the 3 main reasons if you're trying to die in burmation is they're impacted, which we've gone over, they have parasites, which we've gone over, and then they're dehydrated. So you want to make sure they're dehydrated. I would not give them baths, and if you're doing, lift their head up, because if they're still asleep, they can like, make sure you lift their head up. But just gently wake them up, take them out, maybe if they're if they're in full burmation, I would say about every week, one time, you want to wake them up, give them some water, and especially if they're looking wrinkly and sick, give them some water, and then you can bathe them. Just make sure you prop that head up because they could drown, since they might still be half asleep, just like if you wake up in the morning, you're half asleep. So the next one, we're almost done on tips, is every time it might be different. So this year for me, Dorito, and so I'm going to compare like last year when Dorito was still 8 months and a baby to now where he's about, I think, a year and like 4 months-ish. So he didn't do nothing. He didn't stop. He was perfectly fine. He was active. Stop. This time he was half in burmation. He was drowsy. He was not really moving around as much, but he was still eating. Next time, he could be in full burmation. He could not eat. He could sleep the whole entire winter. It's always different, and you do not want to force them to go into burmation. They're not wanting to. You don't want to force to take them out, because that can harm that cycle, and it can hurt them, because it's not what their natural system wants to do. And then it says they can move slightly while in burmation. So if they move from one little area of the cage to another area of the cage, that's fine. Just make sure they're warm. And then they may gain weight before. Be careful if females. So they may gain a little weight before. Males can lose weight just because they're not eating as much. But females may gain a little more weight because they're preparing for when coming out breeding season to lay eggs. Is what they would be preparing. And then if they are females, you do want to get a digger. I read that wrong. Sorry. In general, you want to get a bigger the hut, the better, because then they can roam out, they can spread out, anything like that. We're almost done. We have 2 slides left. So what if it wakes up during burmation? So this is okay. Like I said, Dorito was always awake except for the night. He just slept. He didn't really sleep a little, but he just stayed in one space. He was still up. He still basked. But it's okay, except in full burmation, it's a little different. I would say you get up, check on them. That's that time. That's like that perfect time, because you don't really want to wake them up. So if they're awake, give them a physical exam. Make sure they're healthy. Check under their stomach. Make sure nothing's. Give them that bath if they're up. And then it says you can feed them. So if they are up, like Dorito was in half, I fed them the regular amounts. But if they are in full burmation, because Dorito, I would say, is in like half burmation, they're in full burmation. If they wake up, feed them maybe 1 dubu roach, so they're getting that protein and that nutrients, but not like 6 like you would. So maybe like 2 at the most, I would say 3. You can water them, so like I said, give them water. Don't give them anything hard to digest during that time. Don't give them any worms. Even since Dorito was in full burmation, I didn't give him that just because I didn't want that chance in case he was going into full burmation. You can pet them, so I wouldn't suggest taking them out of the cage for long periods of time if they're in full burmation, but you can still pet them, and then you may be able to handle them. So if they're still drowsy, they're sleeping, don't obviously handle them. If they're wide awake, you can handle them. And then it says if they have not gone back into burmation in 3 to 4 days, you can start to feed them harder food to digest. So that's obviously simple. Last slide. Now this is kind of like the darker end of the video. Burmation, how to tell if they die. But this is also very important. So if their tongue is out. Most animals, if their tongue's out, that means they probably died. So if you see their tongue out, and now if they're basking and they're like mouth open, it's wide, that's just them basking regular in their heat. That's them sweating, so that's fine. But if they're like on the floor laying, with their tongue out, they're dead. If they're not breathing, I showed you how to tell if he's breathing. they're stiff to the touch. So Dorito, if I touch him, like, I don't want to touch him hard, but like you can see he's a little squishy. You can touch him, like he'll like once you, if you like this, if you touch your skin, it makes a little dent. But if it's stiff, that's an indicator that they could be dead. They have cloudy eyes, so if their eyes aren't number one awake, if they're not alert, but also if they're cloudy, not clear, and if like I said before, if they're faded coloring. And then that is it for this video. So this video is probably already pretty long. So not this week, but next week I will do my experience and give you like a 10-minute video instead of that very short, rushed example, because I do have other things and what I did and stuff like that to prepare if you did and stuff like that. So I hope everyone has an amazing Easter or spring break, whatever, and I hope y'all enjoy this video, and my Instagram is linked down below. Please have an amazing spring break. Dorito, you want to say bye? Say bye.